Silence. It is a weapon, a shield, a choice. For much of life, silence can be wisdom. It allows us to listen, to reflect, to avoid speaking words we may later regret. Yet there are moments when silence no longer protects us. In those moments, silence is not strength. It is surrender. The Stoics understood this. They believed that words, when spoken with clarity and purpose, could change the direction of a life, challenge the grip of tyranny, and guard the soul of Guy. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. But to truly be one, you cannot always remain quiet, because sometimes to remain silent is to betray yourself." Seneca warned that the man who refuses to stop a crime, when he has the power to, becomes an accomplice. Epictetus taught that our response to the world is what defines us. And Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, reminded us that philosophy is not about comfort, but about truth. So here's a paradox. A Stoic does not waste words. He does not chatter. He does not argue for the sake of victory. His speech is measured, precise, and often restrained. Yet when the weight of silence would shackle his conscience, when silence would mean turning his back on truth, then a Stoic must speak, not for applause, not to sound wise, not to win the crowd. He speaks because to stay silent would be to live a lie. And this is not just ancient philosophy. It is life. All of us, whether young or old, whether in a crowded room or alone with someone we love, will face moments when silence tests us. Moments when our fear tells us to keep quiet. Moments when comfort tempts us to look away. And in those moments, the question is not simply what will others think if I speak? The question is, what will become of me if I do not? In this journey, we will explore not 5, but 7 situations, 7 moments when silence is no longer golden. 7 times when your voice is not just loud, but necessary. Stay with me, because one day you too will be tested. And when that day comes, may you find the courage to break the silence. 1. When you see injustice. When you see injustice, silence is the most dangerous choice you can make. There comes a moment in every life when wrong stands before you, not hidden, not disguised, but bare and demanding your response. It might not always be something grand, like the rise of a tyrant or the collapse of a nation. Sometimes it is smaller, quieter, an employee humiliated by their boss in front of others, a classmate being mocked until they shrink into themselves, a neighbor cheated by someone who knows they are too kind to resist. Injustice is everywhere, in shadows both great and small. And each time it appears, you are tested. Most people, when faced with injustice, look down. They tell themselves it is not their business, not their fight, not worth the trouble. They whisper excuses, "I don't want to get involved," or "someone else will say something." But those excuses are lies we tell ourselves to keep comfortable. Seneca warned us long ago, "He who does not prevent a crime when he can, encourages it." To turn away when you could act is not neutrality. It is silent approval. Think of history. Every great evil, whether it was slavery, genocide, or corruption, did not thrive only because of the wicked. It thrived because of the silent. Because countless ordinary people decided it was safer to stay quiet, to let someone else bear the weight. But safety is an illusion. Silence does not protect you. It corrodes you from within. The injustice you ignore in the world begins to shape the injustice you tolerate in yourself. Now, the Stoics did not say we should scream at every wrongdoing or fight every battle with fists. They taught restraint, discipline, and clarity. Your voice should not be a weapon of chaos or vengeance. It should be a tool of truth. Speaking against injustice does not mean shouting louder than everyone else. It means refusing to let lies, cruelty, or oppression go unanswered. Even a calm, steady voice can carry more power than the loudest noise when it is grounded in courage. Imagine you are the one suffering injustice. Would you not wish for someone to stand beside you? Would you not wish for a voice to cut through the silence and remind you that you are not alone? Then why would you deny that same gift to another? To remain silent is to abandon not only them, but also the best part of yourself. And so, when injustice stands before you, do not look away. Do not tell yourself a story that silence will keep you safe. Speak, not to prove your righteousness, but to prove that your soul cannot be bought by fear. But injustice is only one face of the test. There are other moments, quieter but no less dangerous, when silence can betray you, because it is not only the world's evils that demand your voice, it is also the moments when your own principles are put to trial. And that is where we must go next. 2. When your principles are challenged. There is another kind of silence, one that does not happen when the world is cruel, but when the world turns to you and questions who you really are. When your principles are challenged, silence can be just as dangerous as in the face of injustice. Because what is a person without their principles? They become like a ship without a rudder, drifting wherever the winds of opinion carry them. And when you do not stand for anything, you end up standing for nothing. The Stoics taught that external events do not define us. It is our response that shapes our character. Epictetus said it clearly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And yet, how often do we betray our own values the moment they are mocked or dismissed? How often do we shrink when the crowd laughs at our discipline, our commitment, or our pursuit of virtue? Think of the small ways this happens in everyday life. Perhaps you decide to live with integrity, refusing to lie even when it is convenient. But someone jokes that you are naive. Perhaps you choose to avoid gossip, to keep your speech clean, but others roll their eyes and call you boring. Perhaps you practice discipline, waking early, training your body, working with focus, while those around you mock you for being too serious. The temptation to stay quiet in these moments is strong. After all, it feels easier to laugh along, to go with the flow, to let the moment pass. But the danger of silence here is subtle. Each time you let others belittle your values without a word in response, you send a message, not just to them, but to yourself, that your principles are negotiable. And the truth is, principles that can be negotiated are not really principles at all. They are preferences, costumes you wear until they become inconvenient. Now, speaking when your principles are challenged does not mean arguing endlessly. It does not mean trying to win debates or force others to live as you do. A Stoic does not speak to conquer others. He speaks to remain unconquered by himself. When you calmly, clearly affirm what you believe, you strengthen your own soul. You remind yourself that your values are not for sale, that your integrity cannot be mocked into silence. And sometimes that steady response plants a seed. Perhaps not immediately, but over time, people notice. They see that while everyone else bends, you remain unshaken. And in a world that constantly shifts its shape, that kind of constancy is rare and unforgettable. So do not hide your principles when they are tested. Do not let the noise of others drown out the clarity of your own compass. For if you lose your voice here, you lose yourself. But there's another danger, one that spreads even faster than mockery. It is when lies, repeated often enough, begin to sound like truth, and that is when silence becomes most costly of all. 3. When falsehood dominates the room. There are moments when silence is not just dangerous, but fatal to truth. These are the moments when falsehood dominates the room. Lies have a peculiar power. Repeat them often enough, loudly enough, and people begin to accept them as reality. The Stoics knew this well. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, taught that philosophy is not a pursuit of comfort, but a pursuit of truth. And truth, when hidden or ignored, loses its strength. Imagine sitting in a meeting where someone spreads blame to the wrong person, and everyone else nods along. Or at a dinner table, when gossip twists someone's reputation, while they are not present to defend themselves. Or in society at large, when leaders distort facts until falsehood becomes a new normal. In each of these cases, silence is not neutrality, it is surrender. To remain quiet while lies echo is to give them a stage, to let them metastasize until they are no longer questioned. The Stoics did not encourage shouting down others or fighting with arrogance. No, they taught us that reason, delivered calmly, has more power than rage ever could. When falsehood rules a room, the task is not to scream louder than the liars. It is to speak with clarity so sharp, so undeniable, that truth pierces through the fog. Seneca once said, "Truth is simple, error is manifold." Lies may take 1,000 shapes, but truth needs only one form. And it is your responsibility, when faced with deception, not to let that simple form vanish into silence. Even if your words are few, even if your voice trembles, It is better to stand with truth than to drown in a sea of falsehood. But here's the difficult part. Speaking against lies often costs us. You might lose favor, you might offend, you might even stand alone. Fear tells us that silence is safer. But safer for whom? For you in the moment, perhaps, but not for the future. Because every falsehood left unchallenged lays a brick in the wall that will eventually surround us all. And remember, the truth you protect is not only for others, it is for yourself. When you let lies dominate without protest, you begin to erode your own courage. Each silence weakens you. Each silence teaches you to accept what you once knew was wrong. And soon, you no longer recognize the sound of your own conscience. So when falsehood dominates the room, do not stay silent. Speak, not with fury, but with reason, not with pride, but with conviction, because one voice of truth, spoken clearly, can shift the entire atmosphere. Yet not all silence is about public lies or social evils. Sometimes the silence that hurts most is the one we keep when someone we love is walking into darkness. And that is where our journey must go next. For when someone you love walks into darkness, there's a kind of silence more painful than any other, the silence we keep when someone we love is slipping into darkness. The Stoics are often misunderstood as cold, detached, unwilling to feel, but that is a distortion of their philosophy. Marcus Aurelius himself grieved for the loss of his children. Seneca wrote tenderly to friends. Epictetus reminded his students that while we cannot control others, we are never absolved of the duty to care for them. A Stoic is not unfeeling. A Stoic loves deeply. And love, real love, cannot stay silent while someone you cherish destroys themselves. Think of the moments we all encounter. A friend drowning in addiction, a sibling lost in anger, a partner spiraling into despair, or a child numbed by hopelessness. It is easy, so easy to stay quiet, to tell yourself, it's their life, I don't want to interfere, they won't listen anyway. And yes, you may be right. They might resist you, they might reject you, they might even resent you. But silence here is not wisdom. Silence here is surrender. Seneca once said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage, and sometimes, to help another live, you must summon the courage to speak, even when your words are unwelcome, even when they are difficult to form, even when they hurt in the moment. Because what is more painful in the end, the discomfort of hard truth or the regret of watching someone you love fall while you remain silent? Remember, your words may not save them. They may ignore you. They may continue on their path. But the Stoics remind us, you are not measured by the outcome. You are measured by whether you had the courage to act, to speak out of love, to try even when failure is possible, is itself an act of virtue. And sometimes, even if your words do not stop the fall, they plant a seed that waits quietly, and one day, when the person is ready, begins to grow. Your voice might be the only anchor they remember when the storm has passed. So when someone you love walks into darkness, do not stay silent. Speak with compassion, speak with honesty, and speak with courage. Even if your words are resisted, even if they seem to vanish into the void, you will know that you did not abandon them to their suffering without a fight. But love is not the only reason silence can betray us. There is another silence, born not of compassion, but of fear. The fear of standing alone, the fear of consequence, the fear of speaking the truth that burns inside you. And it is in that silence, perhaps more than any other, that we risk losing ourselves. That is where we must go next. 5. When you know the truth, but fear speaking it. There are few silences heavier than the one born of fear. The silence that grips you when you know the truth, but do not dare to speak it. Fear is a master of disguises. It whispers that staying quiet will keep you safe, that silence will protect your relationships, your reputation, your comfort. But in reality, fear does not protect. Fear imprisons. The Stoics understood this deeply. They reminded themselves every day of memento mori. Remember, you will die. Epictetus told his students, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? What he meant was simple. Life is short and fear wastes it. Imagine reaching the end of your days and realizing that the truths you carried never left your chest, that the words that could have changed a moment, a person, or even yourself, died with you. That is not safety. That is regret. Think of the times in your own life when the truth burned inside you, but you swallowed it. Perhaps at work, when you saw a mistake, but feared your boss's reaction. Perhaps in your family, when you disagreed, but chose not to cause conflict. Perhaps in a friendship, when you needed to speak an honest word, but avoided it out of fear of rejection. The silence felt easier in the moment, but afterward, that silence haunted you. Because the truth does not disappear simply because you refuse to speak it. It stays inside, pressing heavier with every unspoken word. Now, speaking the truth does not mean being reckless. The Stoics did not call for shouting every thought that crosses your mind. They taught disciplined measure and clarity. Speaking the truth is not about hurting others with blunt force. It is about refusing to betray yourself through silence. Your truth, when spoken with calm conviction, may be uncomfortable. It may even cost you. But what costs more is living with the knowledge that you let fear rule your life. And here's the paradox. When you finally dare to speak the truth, you often discover that fear was lying all along. The world rarely collapses. People may not agree, but many will respect the courage it took to speak. And even if no one else does, you will. You will know that you chose honesty over fear, clarity over cowardice. So when you know the truth but feel the weight of fear pressing down, remember this. Silence may feel safe, but it erodes you from the inside. Speak, not to be applauded, not to be celebrated, but so you can look at yourself without shame. And yet, there's another kind of silence, not born of fear, but of habit. A silence we keep when we are treated unfairly, when respect is denied us, when dignity is ignored. And if we allow that silence to continue, we invite others to cross our boundaries again and again. That is the silence we must face next. 6. When you are treated without respect. There's another silence that slowly eats away at the soul, the silence we keep when we are treated without respect. Respect is not about vanity, nor about demanding admiration. It is about the simple acknowledgement of your dignity as a human being. And when that dignity is denied, when someone speaks to you with contempt, dismisses your worth, or crosses your boundaries, silence is not humility. It is permission. The Stoics were not obsessed with pride, but they did believe in self-respect. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he was no less a human than any other, no more and no less. To accept disrespect without a word is to teach others how to treat you. It tells them that your dignity can be ignored without consequence. And over time, this silent permission becomes a habit, not only for them, but for you. You begin to expect less of yourself, to shrink your voice, to live in smaller and smaller spaces of worth. Think about everyday life. A colleague interrupts you constantly in meetings. A partner speaks to you harshly, not in a moment of anger, but as a pattern. A friend makes jokes at your expense, disguised as just humor. Each of these moments might feel small, not worth a fight, and so you stay silent. But small silences build into large ones, and before long, you find yourself trapped in a cycle of being overlooked, dismissed, or diminished. The Stoic way is not to explode in anger or demand endless apologies. That is just another form of weakness, the weakness of being ruled by temper. Instead, the Stoic responds with clarity, a calm but firm word, a boundary spoken once and then held. You do not need to shout to make yourself respected, but you do need to speak. Because if you do not, you give away the very thing the Stoics considered sacred, your inner freedom. Seneca once said, "He who does not value himself cannot value anything or anyone." When you let disrespect pass in silence, you are not only devaluing yourself, you are weakening your ability to value others too. Respect is a foundation of every healthy relationship, and by speaking when it is denied, you defend not only your own dignity but the dignity of those around you. So when you are treated without respect, do not confuse silence with strength. Strength is not in enduring endless indignities. Strength is in calmly but firmly saying, "This is not acceptable." In that moment, you're not only protecting yourself, you are teaching others how to live with honor. And yet, disrespect is not the only danger that silence allows to grow. Sometimes the challenge is much larger, stretching beyond ourselves and our relationships. Sometimes silence is tested on the scale of an entire community, when the world around us cries out for change. And in those moments, the question is not only whether you will speak for yourself, but whether you will speak for the many who cannot. That is where we must go next. 7. When your community needs your voice. There is a silence greater than the silence of one person, the silence of an entire community. History shows us that injustice, corruption, and decay do not thrive only because of those who commit them. They thrive because too many look away, too many stay quiet, too many convince themselves that someone else will speak. But what if everyone thinks that way? Then no one speaks, and the silence becomes the accomplice of every wrong. The Stoics taught us that while we cannot control the world, we are responsible for our part in it. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, carried the weight of Rome on his shoulders. But even he reminded himself that his duty was not to escape the burdens of others, but to serve them. And though you may not be an emperor, you are still a citizen, a neighbor, a participant in the shared life of your community. To stay silent when your voice is needed is to withdraw from that duty. Think about the issues you see around you today. Pollution poisoning the air your children breathe. Leaders twisting power for personal gain. Entire groups of people silenced by prejudice or poverty. You may feel small compared to such vast problems. And indeed, one voice may not topple an empire, but silence ensures that nothing changes at all. The Stoics never promised that speaking up would guarantee success. They did not measure duty by outcome. They measured it by action. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." If you wish to be a person of virtue, then you must act as one, even when the odds are against you. Speaking when your community needs you is not about controlling the results. It is about refusing to abandon your role in the greater good. And here's the secret. Courage is contagious. When one person speaks, others find the strength to join. A single candle may seem small in a dark room, but light another, and then another, and soon the darkness retreats. Your voice can be that first candle. So when your community needs your voice, do not hide in the comfort of silence. Speak, not with arrogance, not with rage, but with clarity and conviction. Even if you are only one among many, even if you are the first, your voice matters. Because communities are not destroyed by noise. They are destroyed by silence. And so, we return to where we began. Silence can be a shield. Silence can be wisdom. But there are moments, 7 moments, that test us more than all the rest. When injustice stands before you, when your principles are mocked, when lies fill the room, when someone you love walks into darkness, when fear strangles your voice, when disrespect threatens your dignity, and when your community needs your strength. In those moments, silence is no longer golden. It is betrayal. May you find the courage when your time comes to break it. You have walked with me through 7 moments when silence is no longer golden. 7 tests that every life, in one way or another, will face. And now the question turns to you. What will you do the next time silence tempts you? Will you shrink back, letting fear, comfort, or doubt hold your tongue? Or will you step forward with calm conviction and speak the words that must be spoken? The Stoics remind us that life is not measured by how long we live, but by how fully we live in truth. Each moment of courage, each word spoken at the right time, becomes a mark on the soul. And every silence that betrays you becomes a chain, heavier and heavier, until regret is all that remains. You have a choice. You always have a choice. If these words stirred something in you, let them not remain as thoughts only. Carry them into action. The next time you see injustice, the next time your values are mocked, the next time lies echo in the room, remember this conversation. Remember that one clear voice can change everything. And let that voice be yours. But do not stop here. Grow in wisdom. Strengthen your courage. Learn what it means to live as the Stoics lived. With discipline, with clarity, with love, and with unshakable truth. If you found meaning in these reflections, share them with someone who might need to hear them. Because courage spreads. One spark can light another. And together, we create a fire that pushes back the darkness. And if you want to continue this journey, if you want more lessons from the Stoics, more reminders of how to live fully, bravely, and wisely, then stay connected. Subscribe, join this community, and walk with us as we learn not just how to think like the Stoics, but how to live like them. Do not let these words fade into the noise of the day. Choose to act. Choose to speak. Choose to live with courage. For the world does not need more silence. It needs more voices of truth. And yours could be the one that matters most.